scrap lift because we are doing off the board with Pineapple Papers, where we take one of our Pinterest pins and we make a layout from it. And that can be anything. That can be scrap lifting, that can be a sketch, that can be taking like a mood board and taking the colors or any other kind of inspiration, honestly. I continue to scrap some Disney pictures, and you might be able to take a big guess and figure out what I am doing with these pictures. So I have a little bit of explaining to do. I decided to make this, I went to Walgreens and you can make an 8x8 photo, and my first mistake was not paying attention to the cropping. This photo does have a little bit more of my daughter's arm, which I was in a hurry, didn't pay attention to cropping. I'm going with it. It'll be just fine. So there is that. When these were 4x6 photos, and I cut these on my Cricut. Oh, I also cut this on my Cricut. There is a snap mat feature that you can scan the photo and therefore move the image right over the top and cut that out. I love doing this. However, got to tell you, when it's an 8x8 square and you're doing an 8x8 circle, you have to be pretty precise, and that is why I usually go a little bit smaller. And so this one was probably like 3.75 inches. And so then you have a little bit of wiggle room. You get a perfect circle as to where I misjudged my photo. The other thing is, I don't know if my Cricut needs a new blade. It hasn't had one for a while, but well, and the other thing was the mat. It came off the mat so that it didn't get perfect, and I can even see here. The nice thing of it is that you're not going to really tell. A couple of reasons. You can see on the scrap lift I'm doing, it's kind of off the page. So I'm going to make sure some of those are. The other thing it has is it's not lined up exactly. They did wonky. I'm not sure how wonky I'm going to do that. I might go pretty straight on. I don't know. Hard to tell. So, and I did make the circles just a little bit bigger. You can see here, this is where my blade had a hard time in the Cricut, but you know what's gonna happen there? I'm gonna place this photo on it, and you're never gonna see it because this is gonna be the overlapped one. So that'll be like that. And then I wanna put Mickey and Minnie down here where I'm gonna overlap this big lamp there. And then this is a nice, like, short and sweet. So these are pretty, this is a paper pad. And you'll notice the colors, this isn't a vibrant red. So what I did was I looked into my stash to see what, I just have all these in a bag together, all these loose papers. So I have my scraps. I thought, ooh, could I back it on any one of these? So I could really take strips of this just to run along the sides. I kind of like this, but this is similar with all the stars to these dots, so I stayed away from that. This was an option, but just with the white background, I ruled that out. And here's another option, which would have worked fine. You can see, but then I found the yellow, and I like the arrows, and it's a whole piece. So what I'm gonna do is trim this piece down to be smaller, and I'm gonna gut this. And I apologize if you don't like the word gut, but I will take the middle out so that I still have that yellow for another page, but I'll use and it'll all be one piece to go around, and I'll show you that in the next bit. And then I thought I had 2x2 pieces for my, in my stash. I think I must have used them all, unless they're sitting somewhere that I put aside, and I'll find them as soon as I'm done with this layout. So what I decided with, and again, I thought, oh, I could use that. Nope, don't like the white background. Could I use that? Yeah, I could, but I don't really like that. So I'm gonna use this with my yellow behind it. And these are just some of my thinking processes. Now I thought, oh, we could use that and cut it out, because we don't need it that big, but we could use the circle, and that gets rid of the colors that aren't just the same shades, because the red is off, the blue is off, and the yellow is off. We could just trim out that black circle. But I think it's honestly too many circles going on. So I thought, nope. I thought, oh, you could use this, which isn't a title, but you could use with a word, but it's a little too big. I thought, ooh, I could use this and kind of trim out. That wasn't my favorite. But then I got to Magical Memories, and the red is a little bit off, but I don't think it matters a whole bunch. Then I went to my stash, and I have to show you these because I do have some old stash, and there is a date on here of, it actually says December 24th, 2012. So I'm not going to use the Mickey or Minnie because, and I totally could. They're in their little red outfits, and we have Mickey and Minnie in their kind of blue and purple. But I've got this little sticker that said all started with a mouse. And in the pin, there's a little sticker here that says the date. But I thought I could do a label there with it all started with a mouse and then put the date in there, and that would make me happy. So now that you know what I'm doing and what I'm thinking, let's get scrapping. So when I flip this over, then you can really tell it's not a complete circle. You know, if you get just the plain white, you can tell. So I tried to trim off some of it. And you can see that it doesn't line up exactly. But the one part that I was really worried about was this kind of the flat spot up by Merida's head and her ears. And the ears being the mini ears. But I did decide to put the black piece underneath it because it had that little tear in it, and the photo over the top of it, and not really overlapping too much of Meredith, but to bring your eye away from that, it wasn't a perfect circle. So I hope I accomplished that. And so I do want to do it similar to the sketch in that you see a little bit of the pattern paper in the corner there, but it does overlap off the page, and which lets me trim off some of that guy that we don't care about that's over there too. So I do glue down the right ear as well as the main part of the Mickey head. And then I'm going to figure out where to put that left Mickey ear. And I still want to cover up that lamp as much as I can. So that's why I didn't go the same direction as I did for the right ear. And I don't know that that's super noticeable. And it doesn't bother me. So I tucked the lamp underneath the photo and the black outline of the Mickey head. Here I am going to trim down the paper, which now I've realized, oh my goodness, I didn't trim it down so that I can give myself that yellow border. So I did some, this side, I think I took the full 1/2 inch off, but then the other two, I took more of a 1/4 inch of off both sides, and that worked well. Now this wasn't a clean cut, so I go back in again and trim it again to make sure I get a nice clean straight cut is the important thing. And it's looking like the lift, so I'm super happy about that. And then I just trim off the other part that was overlapping off the page. And then I can go ahead and gut that other paper. So there is what it's going to look like. And then I take the yellow piece, and what I did was I went to about the 11-inch mark. So I figure, ooh, I'll have about an inch. And that, with the 1/4 inch I took off each side, gives it about a 1/2 inch, I think, on each side to glue to, which is perfect. So, and then I still have this yellow paper in the middle that I can use on other pages for other things. So then and you don't need to put much of the adhesive on, you need just enough to make that sure that it attaches and doesn't let go. So I just put a little bit in each corner and then on each side, and that's enough to hold it in place. I do lay it down the first time and it wasn't super in the middle, even though it looked pretty straight. So I did pull it up and then just try it again. It looked much better. There you go. I just like that little bit of yellow there. Makes me happy. Here is my border, and I struggled a lot with I was like, ooh, it needs to be bordered. So I need some. So I pulled out every single one of my blue scraps that was anywhere near close, and none of these were big enough, nor really the right shade. But I didn't really know that at the time. So I do go and I find, oh, I cut this one down because it was closest I had, and I don't like it because the blues in the dots are really more gray. So I went back into my stash here. I'm like, ooh, is this the right? I grabbed a couple of 12 by 12 papers out that just weren't right. So I kept trying, and then finally, I've got quite the assortment of every shade of cardstock. There we go. So I found this more grade blue and it worked perfectly. So I trim that off. I lay it down. Sorry about my head. And then once I get it in the right spot where I want it, then I will trim it off where it overlays the side of the paper. You'll notice mine is more at an angle than theirs. I just want it to be as much of the part of the paper, I guess. I wanted it more of an angle. I like the way this turns out. You'll see here that I didn't do so well with the straightness on the first go round, so I did pull it up and put it back down. Here I am trimming off the rest of the blue because it went over the page, and rather than trying to figure out, right dimensions before. And there, I like that. And then I pull this out and I go, oh, if I had known, it had more of a red border, but I trimmed it down. I want it smaller, and it's almost exactly the same size as that blue border. And I wanted it a little bit bigger, but it's like barely just a sliver bigger on each side. So that makes me happy. And I take the same gray paper and then make a fishtail banner out of it and put that on the side. And you won't see it in the right here, but I do after the completed layout. You'll see in the still shots, in the final shots, that I do stamp the date on it. So, hey, check out everybody that's playing below with Off the Board with Pineapple Papers. And I hope you have a fabulous day. I'll see you again soon.